My name is Thea Exton, and I'm 22 years old. I still remember the smell of that morning, burnt toast and cheap dish soap. I was 7 years old, sitting on the kitchen floor with my knees pulled up to my chest, watching my parents argue over a cardboard box. Not over me. Over a box. That detail has never left me. While they fought about who would take the blender and who would keep the good bed sheets, I sat there invisible, pressing my back against the cold cabinet door, wondering if anyone was going to say my name. They didn't. My brother Marcus was 10. My sister Lily was 9. I was the youngest Thea, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble, the one who still believed that if you were good enough and small enough and silent enough, people would love you without being asked. I had spent 7 years perfecting that belief. That morning, it shattered on the kitchen floor like a dropped plate, and nobody bent down to pick up the pieces. My mother packed Marcus into her car first. I watched from the window. She hugged him so tight his feet lifted off the ground. She whispered something in his ear that made him laugh, and then she loaded 2 suitcases into the trunk and drove away without looking back at the house. I pressed my hand against the cold glass. She never looked up. My father came back inside. I genuinely thought, that this was the moment. That he would kneel down, look me in the eye, and say, "Come on, Thea, you're with me." I had already decided I wouldn't cry. I was going to be brave. I was going to make it easy for him. He picked up Lily's backpack from the couch. He called her name down the hallway. She came running out in her pink sneakers, the ones with the Velcro straps she always had trouble doing herself. He did them up for her right there in the hallway, kneeling on the floor, the same floor where I was standing 2 feet away, and he did not look at me once. He stood up, took Lily's hand, and walked toward the door. I said, "Daddy." He stopped. His shoulders went stiff. He turned around halfway, not enough to look me in the face, just enough to show me his profile. He said, "Someone's coming for you, Thea. Be good." And then the door closed. Someone's coming for you. I sat on that kitchen floor for 4 hours. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just sat there waiting for someone who never came, not a grandmother, not an aunt, not a family friend. What came instead was a woman in a gray coat with a clipboard and tired eyes who introduced herself as a social worker and told me to pack 1 bag. I packed my stuffed rabbit, 3 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, and a photograph of all 5 of us at the beach from the summer before. I don't know why I took that photograph. Even at 7, some part of me must have understood that I needed proof it had been real, that I had belonged to something, even briefly. The group home was a large brick building on a street with no trees. The woman in the gray coat brought me inside, signed some papers, and left. A lady with kind eyes showed me to a room with 4 beds and told me I had the one by the window. I sat on it and looked outside at a parking lot and told myself I was lucky to have the window bed. That was how I survived the first night, by finding one small thing to be grateful for. I would spend the next 11 years doing the same thing every single day. I won't pretend the orphanage was a horror story. It wasn't a movie. There were no cruel wardens or locked doors. It was just empty in a way that no amount of food or warmth could fill. It was the absence of someone who chose you. Every other kid in that building knew what I knew, that somewhere out in the world, there were people who were supposed to want us, and they had made a different decision. You carry that knowledge in your chest like a stone. It doesn't get lighter. You just get stronger. I threw myself into school because school was the one place where effort had a direct and honest result. You worked hard, you got something back. Nobody could take your grade away from you. Nobody could decide you weren't worth keeping. By the time I was 14, I was top of my class. By 16, I had a part-time job at a bakery 2 blocks from the home, waking up at 5 in the morning on weekends to prep dough and frost cakes. The owner, a heavy-set woman named Gloria, used to say I worked like I was trying to outrun something. She wasn't wrong. What kept me going was a very simple and very stubborn idea that had taken root inside me somewhere around age 9. I was going to build something. I didn't know what yet. A business, a life, a name, something that was entirely mine, that no one had given me and no one could take from me. Something that would exist because I made it exist, not because someone chose to hand it to me. By the time I aged out of the system at 18, I had saved enough from that bakery job and 2 other part-time jobs to rent a tiny room, cover 3 months of expenses, and enroll in a community business course. I had no safety net. No parent to call if the money ran out. No childhood bedroom to go back to. Just that photograph of us at the beach, tucked into the front pocket of my bag, and 4 years of absolute refusal to become the thing my parents' decision had tried to make me. That refusal turned out to be worth more than anything they ever could have given me. I was 21 years old when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize, and something in my stomach turned over before I even answered it. Not dread exactly. More like the feeling you get when a storm is coming and the air pressure changes. Your body knows before your mind does. It was Marcus. He said my name like he was testing it, like he wasn't sure I'd respond to it. Thea? A pause. It's Marcus. Your brother. As if I needed the clarification. As if I had somehow forgotten the boy my mother had hugged so tight his feet left the ground while I pressed my palm against a cold window and watched them drive away. I sat very still in my office chair. My office, the one above my bakery cafe, the one with my name on the lease, the one I had painted myself on a Saturday in October with 2 cans of warm white paint and a second-hand roller brush. I looked at the framed business license on the wall. I looked at the spreadsheet open on my laptop showing that month's revenue. I took one slow breath and I said, I know who you are, Marcus. What followed was 17 minutes of the most carefully constructed conversation I had ever been part of. He was warm. He was charming. He laughed at the right moments and softened his voice at the right moments and said things like, I've thought about you so much, and I always wondered how you were doing, and Mom and I were talking about you just last week. He talked about me the way people talk about a place they always meant to visit but never got around to. Fondly. Distantly. With zero accountability. He had seen the feature. 3 weeks before that phone call, a local lifestyle magazine had run a piece on my business. The journalist had come in for coffee, stayed for 2 hours, and ended up writing 4 pages about a 21-year-old who had aged out of foster care and built a cafe and catering company from nothing. The piece talked about my childhood briefly, not in detail. I had kept it vague, but enough. Enough for anyone who knew my name to connect the dots. The article had been shared widely online. Within a week, a regional news outlet picked it up. Within 2 weeks, a morning television segment had contacted me for an interview. I had done the interview the morning before Marcus called. I had sat in a studio chair with good lighting and a microphone clipped to my collar and talked about resilience and hard work and building something from nothing. And I had been careful and composed and professional, and somewhere across the city, my family had watched it. After Marcus came Lily. She called 2 days later. Her approach was different, softer, more emotional. She cried within the first 4 minutes. She said she had never stopped thinking about me, that she had been too young to understand what was happening, that she had asked about me for years and been told I was being looked after. She said the word sorry 6 times in 17 minutes. I counted. I don't know why I counted. I think part of me needed to hold on to something concrete while the rest of me processed what was happening. Then my mother called. I had not heard her voice in 14 years. It was both exactly as I remembered it and completely unfamiliar. The way a house looks when you go back to a neighborhood from your childhood. The bones are the same, but everything else has shifted. She cried too. She said she had made a terrible mistake. She said she had been young and overwhelmed and in a dark place, and that she had told herself I would be better off, that she had convinced herself of it because she had needed to in order to live with what she had done. She said she had followed my progress from a distance for years. She said she was proud of me. I listened to all of it. I did not cry. I did not interrupt. I held the phone and I looked out the window of my office at the street below where people were walking in and out of my cafe carrying cups I had chosen and bags with my logo on them, and I thought very carefully about what I wanted to say. I said, I'd like you all to come and see what I've built. There was a pause. Then my mother said yes, of course, absolutely, whenever I wanted. She sounded relieved. She sounded like she thought that was the beginning of something, a reconciliation, a reunion, a story with a warm ending. I imagine Marcus felt the same way when I texted him the address. I imagine Lily felt it too when she confirmed the date. They arrived on a Thursday morning, all three of them together, which I had not expected. My mother looked older in the way that 14 years will make anyone look older, but she was still recognizably herself, same way of holding her shoulders, same tilt of her chin. Marcus was tall now, broad-shouldered, with an easy smile that reminded me uncomfortably of our father. Lily was beautiful and nervous and kept tucking her hair behind her ear the way she used to do as a child when she was anxious. I met them at the door. I shook my mother's hand. I watched something flicker across her face when I did that, when I shook her hand instead of hugging her, but she recovered quickly and smiled and said the cafe was beautiful. It was beautiful. That was the thing. It genuinely was. Exposed brick walls and hanging plants and warm Edison bulbs and a glass display case filled with pastries I had developed myself over 4 years of early mornings and failed batches and stubborn refinement. 12 tables, all full on a Thursday morning. A staff of 9 people I had hired and trained. A catering arm that had contracts with 4 corporate clients. A second location in negotiation. I walked them through all of it. I was a perfect host. I showed them the kitchen, the storage system, the scheduling board, the staff room where I had put a small library of business books because I believe that people do better work when they feel like someone is investing in them. I showed them the framed copy of the magazine article. I showed them the morning TV segment playing on a loop on a small screen near the counter because my marketing manager had suggested it, and she had been right. Customers liked it. It told the story of the place. It brought people in. My mother stood in front of that screen and watched herself described in the gentlest possible terms as a parent who had made a difficult choice during a difficult time. Which was how the journalist had framed it because I had asked her to frame it that way, and she started to cry again. Marcus put his arm around her. Lily looked at me. I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I said, very calmly, I want you to understand something. I didn't invite you here so you could feel good about where I ended up. I invited you here so you could see clearly what your decision cost me and what I chose to do with that cost. I spent 11 years in a group home. I worked 3 jobs to save enough money to start this. I did it without a single phone call from any of you. Not one birthday. Not one Christmas card. Nothing. I paused. And I'm not angry anymore. I made my peace with it because staying angry would have been a second abandonment, abandoning myself to bitterness. But I am not interested in a relationship built on your guilt and my success. If you want to know me, it starts with honesty. Not tears. Not sorry. Honesty. The cafe hummed around us. Someone laughed at a table near the window. The espresso machine ran a cycle. My mother nodded. She looked very small in that moment, standing under my hanging plants in my cafe on my Thursday morning, and I felt something release in my chest, not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but the possibility of it. The door left slightly open. Marcus said, "You deserved better than what we gave you." It was the first true thing any of them had said. I told them they were welcome to sit down and have coffee. I told them it would be a long process if they wanted a real relationship and that I had no interest in performing a reconciliation for the sake of everyone feeling comfortable. I told them I had built my life without them and that I would continue to build it with or without them, and that the only thing I was offering was a chance to be honest with each other from this point forward. No rewinding. No pretending. Just honesty and time and whatever that might eventually become. They stayed for 2 hours. It was uncomfortable and real and necessary. And when they left, I went back upstairs to my office, sat down in my chair, and looked at the photograph I still kept on my desk, the 5 of us at the beach, squinting into the sun. I had carried it for 15 years. I had carried it through every hard night and early morning and moment of doubt, not as a wound, but as a reminder that I came from something, even if that something had broken, and that I had chosen to build something better from the pieces. I was 21 years old. I had a business, a staff, a name people recognized, and a story that was entirely mine. They had given me nothing. And somehow, that nothing had been exactly enough.